So another foundering car, another small holiday in the Abarth 595C because it's summer vibe, and this is also a short resume about the tuning, stage 1 tuning by BR Performance, and I am quite happy with it. And why is that? Because the car already had quite good torque and quite good horsepower, but this makes everything even better. And the thing is, if you have 21 horsepower in addition, but especially 73 Newton meters in addition, and you have that, especially those gains in the lower range, this is what I was seeking. And why is that? Because this Abarth 595C is a convertible, as you can see, and it's aimed at to be there for pleasure, experience, etc. So it's not an all-out race type of car, and therefore I also like the EIE turbo over the Garrett turbo. This sounds very funny, and it might be, but the Garrett turbo is a lot stronger and larger turbocharger, and larger turbochargers take more time to spool up. So in a lower rev range, where you're working most of the time, you have less gains. Funny thing, huh? Whereas the EIE is a small turbocharger and has not much gains in the top end, so the high rev range, but a lot of gains in the lower end. And the lower end is where you will be every time, even if you're going to the top end, because you have to go through the lower end. And the lower end also gives you those gains in from day-to-day practice. Another thing to consider is that the Abarth 595C 160 horsepower standards claimed, because this Abarth 595 Turismo does not really have those horsepowers. And this might sound a little bit funny, but the thing is, it only had 152 horsepower in reality. So therefore the gains that are often displayed that you get from 160 to 170-ish horsepower is not that great. But if you look at the real numbers, 152 to 173 horsepower, those gains are better. And there's something else. This car comes with a start through the engine twisting, but also has a sport button. And that sport button is there for you to access the full power. And the full power is thus tamed in the not sport button version. And you can just access that by pressing the sport button, and then I had 152 horsepower in reality, and they claim 160 horsepower. But the thing is, if you're not in sports, you have actually less horsepower, of course, and those less horsepower just have a drawback, because you can only access the full power in the sport button, but once you press the sport button you also lose a lot of the functionality of the normal, because for example driving range, mileage, so your frugality of your engine or the non-frugality of your engine. Okay, long story short, if you add the tuning to both maps, then you have the gains in the sport, as I mentioned, 21 horsepower, 73 Newton meter, which are quite big. But in the non-sport mode you have a lot more gains, because normally that non-sport mode was further restricted. Then the gains might easily be 100 Newton meter in torque, and I guess 40-ish horsepower gain. And then I think you will find that even in the 160 horsepower version, the tuning is there for you and is a good addition to the things that you already have. Another thing to consider is that, of course, the gains are there, and if you have a 135, 140 horsepower engine, you get almost the same peak horsepower. You get a little bit more resistance in the lower end, so the lower end, even in a tuned 160 horsepower, is more than in a standard 135, 140 horsepower car. But the thing is, with those 135, 140 horsepower cars, you get of course a lot more gains. Even in sport mode you can get 36 horsepower gains, and in non-sport mode the gains will be even more drastic. But the thing is, I don't have such a lower version of the sport. That's one. And the other thing is that the mid-range of the 160 horsepower that are already tuned by Abarth themselves, as compared to the 135, 140 horsepower engines, is a lot stronger. So that is a gain that you will keep. And of course you might say, okay, I would not tune that, and I think you're very right in doing so, because especially if you're always in sport, the gains are not that drastic. So only 20 horsepower gains. It's nothing to sneeze about, in my opinion, but they are not that drastic. Whereas the costs are the same. So, long story short again, if you have a 135, 140 horsepower Abarth engine, I think stage 1 tune is very much appreciated. If you don't have that, but you, for example, you have a 160 horsepower Turismo or Competizione EIE, so it's quite stressed already into its maximum for this type of engine, of course. I still think it is worthwhile, because you get access to 20 additional horsepower, which can be 30 horsepower in the lower range, and 20 horsepower is in peak. But in lower range the gains are better, so 30 horsepower ish. As I mentioned, this mid-range is a lot stronger in this type of car as compared to the non 160 horsepower standard engines, so to say. But also you get a lot of benefit if you have this sport map now also available for you in the non-sport mode. So then the gains are very drastic. I really find out that there is a good improvement. So for your reference, the peak bar in the stock car is about 0.8 bar on the turbo in non-sport mode, and like 1.2 bar in sport mode. But if you get the tune, you get 1.4 bar max in both modes. So that gives you quite a big gain, next to the engine optimization, the ignition, of course. So I hope you liked this short video. Founder and Car out.